There is a quiet power that exists in the moments before the world fully awakens. Have you ever noticed how the first few minutes of your day set the tone for everything that follows? How a single thought, a single action in the early hours can ripple into your entire day. Most of us rush through mornings as if they are merely a bridge between sleep and obligation, unaware that these hours carry a subtle, sacred authority, an authority over our mind, our heart, and our spirit. The truth is that the morning is not just a time of day, it is an opportunity to shape your life, your emotions, and your intentions before the noise of the world pulls you in 1,000 different directions. It is in the quiet of the dawn that we find clarity, that we are offered a chance to breathe, to align, to remember, to awaken not just in body, but in soul. Consider this. How often have we looked back on our days and wondered why some days felt light and purposeful while others felt heavy and scattered? The difference often lies in the first moments after we open our eyes. When we allow our mornings to be dictated by urgency, by notifications, by the pressure to get things done, we hand over control of our hearts to the chaos of the world. But when we intentionally craft our mornings, when we approach them with mindfulness, with care, with gratitude, we reclaim that control, we reclaim our hearts and the narrative of our days. This is not about rigid schedules or mechanical repetition. It is about sacred rhythm, about intentional presence, about recognizing that the way we greet the day is the way we greet life itself. Imagine waking up tomorrow and instead of reaching for your phone, instead of immediately plunging into the demands that await you, you pause. You inhale deeply and let yourself exist in the moment of awakening. You take a moment to feel your heartbeat, to feel your body alive, to feel the breath flowing through you. You whisper a word of gratitude, small though it may seem. You remind yourself that another day has been granted to you, a day with endless possibilities, a day to grow, to love, to learn, to forgive, to change. This simple act, this brief pause, is a declaration of sovereignty over your mind and soul. It is a quiet rebellion against distraction and inertia, a commitment to presence and intention. The morning carries a symbolism that goes beyond habit or productivity. It is a metaphor for life itself. Every dawn offers renewal. Every sunrise is a gentle reminder that no matter how heavy yesterday was, no matter how far we fell, the world turns toward light, and we are given another chance. There is a spiritual dimension to beginning the day consciously, to starting with reflection and alignment. It is a reminder that our internal state precedes external action, that the quality of our hearts shapes the quality of our lives, and that even the smallest act of mindfulness in the morning can illuminate the hours to come. Now, consider the tools we bring into our mornings. They are not complex. They do not require wealth or privilege or perfection. They are simply awareness, intention, and choice. The way you greet yourself upon waking, the first thought you hold, the first movement of your body, the first words you speak to yourself, these are not insignificant. They are seeds. Seeds of energy, seeds of focus, seeds of resilience. If planted with care, they grow into strength, peace, and clarity. If neglected, they can sprout distraction, anxiety, and fatigue. The morning is your soil. Your attention is your water. Your intention is your sunlight. What will you choose to cultivate in this sacred garden? Think about how the world teaches us to start the day. Alarms that jolt us awake, notifications that demand our attention, news feeds that feed our worries, schedules that drain our energy before we even take a breath. This is not the rhythm of the soul. This is the rhythm of obligation, of external demand. But there is another rhythm, a counter rhythm, subtle and powerful, that invites us to begin with calm, with reflection, with nourishment for the heart as well as the mind. It whispers that life is not merely about doing, but about being. That the first act of the morning need not be productivity alone. It can be presence. It can be prayer. It can be stillness. It can be intention. And in this stillness, we build a fortress against chaos. We lay the foundation for peace. We anchor our spirit in clarity. Consider the power of movement in the morning. When we stretch, when we walk, when we allow our bodies to awaken gently, we communicate to ourselves that we are worthy of care. Our bodies, which carry us through the trials of life, deserve respect and attention from the moment we rise. Movement is not merely exercise, it is a statement of love toward oneself. It is a gentle insistence that we are alive, that we have presence, that we matter. And when we pair movement with reflection, with breathing, with thoughtfulness, the morning becomes an active meditation, a ritual that primes the mind for calm, focus, and grace. The mind, too, is shaped by the morning. Consider the thoughts that occupy your mind first thing. Are they worries, obligations, complaints? Or are they gratitude, clarity, intentions? The thoughts we nurture in those early moments dictate the lens through which we perceive our day. By choosing to direct our minds toward positivity, toward possibility, toward intention, we are not denying reality, we are mastering it. We are choosing the frame through which life will pass before it ever touches us. And in this choice lies freedom, the freedom to respond rather than react, to create rather than merely drift, to inhabit our lives fully rather than pass through them sleepwalking. The morning is also a time for clarity of purpose. It is a moment to remind ourselves of our values, of our commitments, of the truths we hold dear. By aligning our hearts and minds with what is essential, we fortify ourselves against distraction. We build resilience not through force or discipline alone, but through conscious attention and repeated gentle affirmation. Each morning becomes a spiritual exercise, an opportunity to recalibrate, to examine our intentions, to release what does not serve us, to embrace what strengthens us, to greet the day with courage and mindfulness. This is the essence of power in a morning routine. It is not in the tasks completed, but in the soul awakened. Every day we are given a gift that is often overlooked: the quiet, unassuming hours of the morning. There is a sacredness in this time, a subtle, almost invisible power that whispers to us if we would only pause to listen. Most of us awaken with our minds still entangled in yesterday's worries or tomorrow's obligations, rushing to meet demands, unaware that before we even step into the world, the day has already begun shaping us. But imagine if we treated these hours not as a mundane bridge between sleep and obligation, but as a sacred opportunity, a chance to intentionally plant the seeds for a day of clarity, purpose, and peace. It is in these first moments that the direction of our thoughts, the posture of our hearts, and the tone of our energy are quietly but profoundly determined. The morning is not merely the beginning of time on the clock. It is the beginning of our engagement with life itself, and it offers us the chance to assert presence, to anchor our spirit, and to claim control over the narrative of our day. The sacredness of the morning is not only in its quiet, but in its inherent symbolism. The world outside may be full of noise, chaos, and expectation, but the dawn brings a reminder that each day is a blank page. Each sunrise is a gentle invitation to recommence, to renew, to realign with what is essential. The first moments are, in essence, a small sanctuary for the soul, a space untouched by the demands of the world, where we can meet ourselves with honesty, gratitude, and intention. It is here that the first thought of the day becomes a declaration, a word of kindness toward ourselves, a breath of gratitude for existence, a pause to acknowledge the gift of another day. By entering the morning with consciousness rather than autopilot, we reclaim our power. We assert that our days will not merely happen to us, they will be guided by our presence, shaped by our awareness, and colored by our intentionality. This sacred opportunity extends beyond mere mindfulness. It is an invitation to spiritual awareness. The early hours, before the world's noise intrudes, provide a moment to align ourselves with our deeper values and truths. A brief reflection on gratitude, on purpose, or on the heart's intention can reverberate throughout the hours to come. Just as the soil before planting must be carefully tended, the mind and heart before the day begins require attention and care. A morning cultivated with awareness and intention creates a ripple effect, allowing clarity to guide choices, peace to temper reactions, and presence to permeate interactions. By understanding the sacredness inherent in these moments, we shift from being passive participants to active co-creators of our daily lives. Furthermore, this opportunity is universal. It requires no special tools, wealth, or skill, only the willingness to pause, breathe, and intentionally engage with the first moments of the day. Every person, regardless of circumstance, has the ability to meet the morning with consciousness. Whether through reflection, prayer, journaling, or simply mindful breathing, the morning offers a chance to sow seeds that, though invisible at first, grow into the fruits of focus, resilience, and inner calm. To recognize the morning as sacred is to recognize the extraordinary potential in what seems ordinary. It is to understand that before the world awakens, we have already begun shaping our lives through the gentle, quiet, yet profound exercise of intention. There is a profound difference between moving through the morning as a series of obligations and moving through it with awareness, with presence. So often we are conditioned to rush, to check notifications before we even fully awaken, to react to the demands of the world rather than attend to the stillness within us. The power of a morning routine is not measured by how many tasks are completed, how early we rise, or how strict the schedule appears. It is measured by the attention, care, and intention we bring to these first moments. When we begin the day fully conscious of our breath, of our thoughts, of our hearts, we set a foundation that extends far beyond the morning itself. There is a quiet magic in choosing to greet the day before the day greets us, in taking ownership of our awareness rather than surrendering it to external urgency. Presence is not passive. It is active. It is deliberate. It is the first act of self-governance, a gentle assertion that our hearts and minds belong to us before they are borrowed by the world. Imagine awakening and pausing long enough to feel the pulse of life within you, to acknowledge the gift of breath, of consciousness, of another chance to begin anew. In that pause, there is power. In that pause, there is clarity. In that pause, you cultivate the ability to respond rather than react, to observe rather than be swept along by the currents of external pressures. Presence transforms the mundane act of rising into a deliberate moment of creation, a chance to shape the emotional and spiritual quality of the hours to come. Every thought entertained, every intention set, every gesture offered in those first minutes becomes a declaration of sovereignty over the inner world. Even a small moment of reflection, a brief whisper of gratitude, or a mindful stretch of the body can ripple outward, touching the rest of the day with balance, calm, and focus. The danger lies in allowing the morning to be dictated by urgency, by distraction, by the endless pull of obligations. When we hand the first moments of our day over to external forces, we surrender our clarity, our equilibrium, our sense of inner alignment. The world demands attention in its own tempo, but the soul requires its own rhythm, one that begins in stillness, in awareness, in the deliberate act of showing up for oneself. By cultivating presence, by honoring the sacred nature of the morning, we equip ourselves to meet the day with intentionality, to navigate challenges with composure, and to approach relationships with mindfulness. Presence at the beginning of the day is not only a gift to oneself, it is a gift to those with whom we interact. For the clarity and calm we carry inward is reflected outward in patience, empathy, and thoughtful action. To move through the morning with awareness is to reclaim the narrative of our lives from the incessant demands of distraction. It is to recognize that even in the smallest gestures, pausing before checking the phone, choosing to breathe consciously, reflecting briefly on purpose, we assert control over the tone and direction of our day. Presence is cultivated not by rigid routine, but by the deliberate choice to be fully attentive to the moment we inhabit. It is a subtle practice, often overlooked, yet it is transformative in its impact. The ordinary becomes sacred when we approach it with awareness, the mundane becomes profound when infused with intention, and the simple act of awakening becomes a powerful statement of self-mastery, grounding, and spiritual alignment. The morning, in its quiet generosity, invites us to show up fully, to inhabit our own being, and to walk forward into the hours ahead not as passive participants, but as conscious architects of our inner and outer worlds. The morning is more than a time on the clock. It is a space where the heart and mind can realign, where the soul can find clarity before the weight of the day presses in. In these early hours, there is an unparalleled opportunity to connect with oneself, to pause and reflect on the values and intentions that truly matter, and to nurture the inner landscape that often goes unnoticed amidst the busyness of life. Spiritual alignment is not merely a practice of ritual, it is an awareness of the heart, a recognition of what nourishes the soul, and a conscious choice to direct energy toward what elevates rather than diminishes. By choosing to engage the morning in reflection, prayer, or stillness, we create a space where the mind can settle and the heart can awaken to its higher purpose. There is a subtle power in this alignment that extends far beyond the first hour of the day. It colors every interaction, shapes every decision, and influences the emotional tenor of the hours that follow. Consider the simple act of greeting the morning with gratitude, acknowledging even the smallest blessings, the mere act of being alive, of breathing, of having another chance to begin again. Gratitude in the morning is not a passive acknowledgement, but an active practice that opens the heart to joy, resilience, and perspective. It reminds us that despite the struggles of yesterday or the uncertainties of tomorrow, the present moment is a gift, and our awareness of it is a sacred exercise. Similarly, reflection allows us to examine the inner currents of our thoughts and emotions, to notice patterns that serve us and those that do not, and to make conscious adjustments before the day dictates them for us. When the morning is approached with intentionality, these small yet profound practices create an inner alignment that fosters emotional stability and spiritual presence. Movement and care for the body also play a critical role in this alignment. Gentle stretches, mindful walking, or even simple breathing exercises communicate to ourselves that our physical vessel is honored, that the life force within is acknowledged and cherished. When the body is treated with awareness and respect in the early hours, it becomes a partner rather than a burden throughout the day. Mind, body, and heart converge in the morning when approached with intention, creating a holistic state of readiness that allows us to engage with the world from a place of groundedness rather than reaction. The mind, too, requires this nurturing space in the morning. By setting intentions, prioritizing clarity over chaos, and choosing the first thoughts that occupy our consciousness, we cultivate a mental environment conducive to focus and composure. The alignment of thought, heart, and spirit in these early hours creates resilience against stress, distraction, and impulsivity. It is not a rigid formula, but a gentle cultivation, a recognition that when we start the day anchored in purpose, we carry that anchor into every task, every conversation, every challenge. Morning practices rooted in reflection, gratitude, and mindful movement transform the way we experience life. They shift us from being passive respondents to the world to becoming active participants in our own inner and outer realities. Spiritual and emotional alignment is not an abstract ideal. It is a daily exercise, one that begins in the sacred hours of dawn, guiding us with subtle power through the unfolding day, allowing the heart to speak, the mind to see clearly, and the spirit to walk forward with intention and grace. The thoughts we entertain in the early hours of the day carry a weight far greater than we often realize. The first impressions of the mind, the initial patterns of thought upon waking, set a lens through which the world is perceived. When we allow our mornings to be filled with worry, distraction, or reactive thinking, we unconsciously invite tension, impatience, and scattered energy to permeate the hours ahead. Yet, when we intentionally cultivate clarity, positivity, and purpose in those first moments, we are not merely shaping a morning. We are shaping the very framework of our perception, the architecture of our emotional and spiritual experience. Thoughtful cultivation begins with awareness, noticing where the mind drifts and gently redirecting it toward what strengthens rather than diminishes the heart and intellect. Even a simple practice of pausing to center oneself, to breathe deeply, or to set a clear intention can serve as an anchor against the currents of distraction that inevitably arise throughout the day. The mind's early conditioning has a subtle but profound ripple effect. A morning that begins with deliberate thought sets a rhythm for decision making, focus, and emotional resilience. When we prime our thoughts with reflection and conscious choice, we prepare ourselves to navigate challenges with equanimity rather than react impulsively. We cultivate the ability to observe without immediate judgment, to respond with wisdom rather than frustration, and to carry an inner calm into every interaction and task. The deliberate attention we pay to our initial mental state is a quiet form of self-discipline, not rooted in rigidity, but in care, not in judgment, but in cultivation. It teaches us that our inner world can be tended, shaped, and guided, and that this guidance is most potent when we begin each day with mindful intention. Equally important is the alignment of thought with values and purpose. The morning provides a fertile space to reconnect with what is truly meaningful, to reflect on our priorities, and to identify the intentions that will carry us through the day. When we consciously choose thoughts that resonate with our principles, we strengthen our inner integrity and cultivate coherence between belief and action. This process is not about perfection or eliminating all negative thought, but about creating a foundation from which we can engage the world more fully, more thoughtfully, and more consciously. The small effort of directing the mind toward clarity and purpose at the start of the day compounds, influencing how we respond to difficulties, how we engage with others, and how we manage the inevitable uncertainties of life. Moreover, the cultivation of thought in the morning is intertwined with the nurturing of the heart. Mental clarity and emotional balance are inseparable. The thoughts we entertain influence our feelings, and the state of our heart shapes our cognition. A moment spent in reflection, gratitude, or silent affirmation anchors the heart and mind in harmony, creating a subtle resilience that carries through each interaction and task. By attending to both mental and emotional alignment, the morning becomes not just a preparation for external productivity, but a sacred rehearsal for the inner life, setting a standard of attentiveness, calm, and intention that guides the entirety of the day. The early cultivation of mind and heart is therefore a powerful practice of agency. It reminds us that we are not passive recipients of circumstance, but active participants in shaping our internal reality. By investing attention, care, and purpose into the first thoughts of the day, we create a ripple of clarity and intentionality that extends far beyond the morning, influencing how we think, feel, and act in ways both subtle and profound, forming the foundation for a life marked by presence, wisdom, and equilibrium. The way we begin our mornings carries a subtle, yet profound, influence that extends far beyond the first hour of the day. Each deliberate choice, Each mindful act in those early moments creates a ripple effect, shaping not only the immediate hours ahead, but also the way we engage with life as a whole. A morning approached with intention is a morning that honors the rhythm of the heart and mind, that acknowledges the sacredness of time, and that cultivates the conditions for clarity, focus, and resilience. It is in these quiet, unassuming moments that we exercise agency over our internal world, determining whether we will enter the day grounded and centered or scattered and reactive. The power of intentional beginnings lies not in grand gestures but in small, conscious acts, a pause for reflection, a moment of gratitude, a mindful stretch, a gentle breath, a quiet affirmation that collectively set the tone for the unfolding hours and shape the narrative of our daily experience. The ripple effect of a mindful morning is both psychological and spiritual. When we cultivate presence and clarity at the outset, we equip ourselves to navigate challenges with composure, to respond to stress with awareness rather than reaction, and to engage with others from a place of empathy and intentionality. Decisions made from a grounded mind and a centered heart are often wiser, interactions with others more compassionate, and tasks undertaken with greater efficiency and care. The energy we cultivate in the early hours does not remain confined to those moments. It extends outward, influencing how we perceive situations, how we communicate, and how we carry ourselves through the world. In this way, a morning routine becomes more than a set of habits. It becomes a template for the quality of life we aspire to live, an anchor that supports balance and resilience amid the uncertainties and demands of daily existence. Intentional beginnings also foster a deeper awareness of purpose. By dedicating time in the morning to connect with our values, to reflect on what truly matters, and to set priorities in alignment with our principles, we create coherence between our inner life and external actions. This alignment nurtures a sense of integrity, reducing the dissonance that arises when we move through life passively or reactively. It allows us to meet each moment with greater clarity and confidence, understanding that the energy we carry into the world has been thoughtfully cultivated. A practice as simple as mindful breathing, journaling intentions, or expressing gratitude can serve as the catalyst for a day characterized by conscious engagement, emotional balance, and spiritual awareness, providing a subtle yet powerful framework for growth and fulfillment. The influence of a mindful morning is cumulative. Each day built on intentional practices reinforces the next, creating a rhythm of presence and clarity that becomes a natural part of life. This continuity strengthens resilience, enhances emotional intelligence, and deepens spiritual awareness, shaping not only individual days, but the broader trajectory of personal growth. In essence, the power of a morning routine lies in its ability to ripple outward, transforming ordinary hours into opportunities for meaningful engagement, infusing life with awareness, and nurturing the capacity to live with intentionality, grace, and purpose. The choices we make at the start of each day resonate far beyond the morning, creating a foundation upon which the entirety of our experiences, decisions, and interactions can be harmonized and elevated.